There are some people you lose because they stopped loving you. And then there are people you lose because you treated them so badly that they finally learned how to love themselves more than they loved you. Chinedu lost Chioma for the second reason. And the painful part? He didn't even realize he had lost her until it was too late. You see, Chioma was not the kind of woman who left a man because of one small argument. She wasn't the type who would wake up one morning, pack 2 clothes inside a Ghana must-go bag, and announce, "I am done." No, Chioma was patient. Very patient. In fact, if patience was a university course, Chioma would have graduated with first-class honors, collected a master's degree, and still been sitting at the back of the class, saying, "Let me just give him one more chance." But every patient person has a limit. And Chioma's limit came quietly. No social media warfare. No long WhatsApp status updates. Just one morning, she looked at the man she had loved for 5 years and realized something that changed her life forever. She realized that she had been begging someone to value what he already had. And when that realization entered her heart, something inside her died. Not her love, her tolerance. And once a woman loses her tolerance for disrespect, my friend, it is a different kind of goodbye. But before we get to the day Chioma walked away, let's go back to where everything started. Because every beautiful relationship has a beginning. And sometimes, the beginning is so sweet that you cannot imagine how badly things will end. 5 years earlier, Chioma was 26 years old and living in Lagos. She worked as a marketing executive for a small but growing real estate company in Lekki. She wasn't rich. At least, not in the way people use the word rich. She wasn't driving a Range Rover. She wasn't living in a duplex with 3 generators. She didn't have a personal chef. But Chioma was comfortable. She had a good job. She was financially responsible. She knew how to save. She knew how to cook. She knew how to dress without spending her entire salary. Her mother used to tell her, "Chioma, beauty is good, education is good, money is good, but if you don't know your worth, people will price you anyhow." Those words stayed with her. Chioma's mother was a primary school teacher in Enugu, and her father had retired from civil service. They weren't wealthy, but they raised their children with something money could not buy: self-respect. Chioma had 2 siblings, an older brother who was married and living in Abuja, and a younger sister who was still in university. Because Chioma was the eldest daughter, people naturally expected her to be responsible. And she was. Sometimes too responsible. She was the kind of woman who would receive her salary and immediately divide it. Rent, food, savings, family support, emergency, personal expenses. And whatever remained, she would keep it. "Chioma, are you preparing for war?" She would laugh. "You never know." And apparently she really didn't know. Because one ordinary Friday evening, while attending a friend's birthday dinner in Victoria Island, she met Chinedu. Chinedu was 31, tall, good-looking, confident, and extremely smooth with words. The type of man who could make a woman believe he had been waiting his entire life just to meet her. He worked for a logistics company and claimed he was building something big. Chioma liked ambitious men. Not necessarily rich men, ambitious men. There was a difference. A rich man could have money. An ambitious man had direction. At least, that was what she thought. That evening, Chioma was sitting with her friend Amaka when Chinedu walked over. "Excuse me," he said. Chioma looked up. "Yes? I've been trying to figure out how to approach you without embarrassing myself." Amaka nearly choked on her drink. Chioma smiled. "Then maybe you should have continued trying." Chinedu laughed. "Okay, that's fair." He introduced himself. Chioma introduced herself. They talked for almost 20 minutes, then 40. Then somehow, the birthday dinner ended, and everyone was leaving. Chinedu asked for her number. Chioma hesitated. Amaka whispered, "Give him." Chioma gave him the number. As she walked away, Amaka grabbed her arm. "That man likes you." Chioma rolled her eyes. "Everybody likes everybody in Lagos. Let's see if he will still like me when I tell him I don't like nonsense." Amaka laughed. "That is why I like you." Chinedu called the next morning, and the next, and the next. At first, he sent good morning messages, He asked how her day was going. He remembered small details. He knew she loved plantain. He knew she hated being late. He knew she preferred tea to coffee. He even surprised her one evening after work with a box of her favorite pastries. Chioma was impressed. "This man pays attention," she told Amaka. Amaka replied, "Or he's doing research." Chioma laughed. "A beg leave me." For the first 6 months, Chinedu was almost perfect. He took her on dates. He met her friends. He spoke respectfully about her parents. He talked about marriage. He talked about building a home. He told her, "I don't want a woman who will depend on me for everything. I want a partner." Those words made Chioma happy, because she wanted exactly that. A partnership, not a master-servant relationship. Not a woman who would sit at home waiting for a man's money. Not a man who believed paying the bills gave him the right to disrespect his wife. She wanted two people building something together. And Chinedu seemed to understand. Or so she thought. One Saturday afternoon, Chinedu took Chioma to meet his mother. The woman looked at Chioma from head to toe. Then she smiled. "My son has finally brought someone serious." Chioma smiled politely. "Good afternoon, Ma." Chinedu's mother liked her immediately. She even pulled Chioma aside later. "My son can be stubborn." Chioma laughed. "Mine too. Then you will manage each other." At the time, nobody knew how prophetic those words were, because Chinedu wasn't just stubborn. He was proud, and his pride would eventually cost him the woman who had been willing to stand beside him. After 1 year together, they became engaged. Nothing extravagant, just a beautiful family gathering. Both families met. There was food, there was music, there were prayers. There were aunties who had not seen Chioma since she was a child, suddenly asking when the wedding date would be. One auntie even whispered, "Don't delay, oh, Lagos men are disappearing." Chioma nearly laughed, but she was happy. She loved Chinedu, and she believed he loved her. After the engagement, they started planning their future. They decided they would marry within the next year. Chinedu wanted to start a business. Chioma offered to help him. She didn't give him all her money. She wasn't foolish, but she supported him. She helped him prepare a business plan. She reviewed his proposals. She connected him with people she knew. She even helped him secure his first major client. When Chinedu got the contract, he hugged her. "Chioma, you're my good luck charm." She laughed. "No, I'm your partner." He kissed her forehead. "Exactly." But slowly things began to change. The first sign was money. Chinedu's business wasn't doing as well as expected. Orders were delayed. Customers owed him. Expenses increased. And suddenly, the man who once talked about partnership started talking about sacrifice. "Chioma, I need some help." "How much?" 200,000. Chioma paused. "What happened?" "Business expenses." She gave him the money. 2 months later, he asked again. "Another 150. She asked questions. He became defensive. "Do you trust me?" Chioma looked at him. "It's not about trust, it's about knowing where my money is going." "Forget it." Chioma eventually gave him the money. Then another amount. Then another. Before long, she had contributed almost 1 million naira to the business. But she never complained. She thought they were building together. Then Chinedu started becoming successful. His business improved. He started making more money. He bought a better car. He upgraded his wardrobe. He began eating at expensive restaurants. And suddenly, the man who once said, "We are partners," began behaving like Chioma was lucky to be with him. It started with small comments. "You don't really understand this level of business. You are too emotional. Women don't understand how men operate. You're lucky I'm not the type of man who wants a woman who just stays at home." Chioma noticed, but she ignored it, because she thought it was temporary. Then came the first serious insult. They were attending a dinner with some of Chinedu's friends. One of them asked Chioma, "So what does your husband-to-be do for you?" Before she could answer, Chinedu laughed. For now, she manages herself. Everyone laughed. Chioma smiled. But inside, something hurt. Later in the car, she said, "Why did you say that?" He looked at her. "Say what?" "That I manage myself." Was it a lie? No, But you made it sound like I don't matter. Chioma, must everything become a serious conversation? She became quiet. He reached for her hand. You're too sensitive. And there it was. The phrase that would eventually become one of the most painful phrases in their relationship. You're too sensitive. Whenever Chioma complained about something, she was sensitive. Whenever she felt disrespected, she was sensitive. Whenever she asked questions, she was sensitive. Whenever she wanted accountability, she was sensitive. But whenever Chinedu wanted something, it was reasonable. Gradually, Chioma started questioning herself. Maybe she was overreacting. Maybe she was expecting too much. Maybe relationships were just like this. Maybe every woman had to endure certain things. Then one day, her mother called. How are you? I'm fine, Mommy. There was silence. Her mother knew her daughter. You don't sound fine. Chioma laughed. I'm okay. Chioma, never let anybody make you feel like you should be grateful for basic respect. Those words hit her differently, because her mother didn't know what was happening. Or perhaps mothers simply know. Chioma changed the subject. But that night she couldn't sleep. She looked at her engagement ring, and for the first time she wondered, am I marrying the man I met, or am I marrying the man he is becoming? She didn't know the answer. Not yet. After that night, Chioma began observing. Not spying, observing. There is a difference. She watched how Chinedu spoke to waiters. She watched how he spoke to his drivers. She watched how he treated people who couldn't do anything for him. And she noticed something. The sweeter Chinedu was to people he wanted something from, the colder he became toward people he believed he already had, including her. One evening, Chioma cooked dinner. It was one of Chinedu's favorite meals. 8 o'clock. 9. 10. At 10:30 he entered. No apology, no explanation. He dropped his keys on the table. Food? Chioma looked at him. Good evening. He ignored the sarcasm. I'm hungry. She served him. He ate quietly. Then he said, this food needs more salt. Chioma stared at him. Okay. He looked up. What? Nothing. You're doing that thing again. What thing? Chinedu, I cooked for you after waiting for you until almost 11. And the first thing you said was that the food needed salt. He dropped his spoon. So now I'm not allowed to complain about food? You can complain, but you can also appreciate. He stood up. You know what? I'm tired. Chioma watched him walk away. That night, she cried quietly. Not because of the food, because she realized she was becoming lonely inside a relationship. And loneliness inside a relationship is one of the strangest kinds of loneliness. You can lie beside someone, hear them breathe, feel them move, and still feel completely alone. Months passed. Wedding preparations became more stressful. Chinedu suddenly became very particular about money. We need to reduce the guest list. We don't need all these decorations. Okay. Your family should handle the food. Okay. Your friends should contribute. Chioma agreed to most things. But then, Chinedu bought a new phone worth hundreds of thousands of naira. Chioma looked at him. I thought we were cutting expenses. This is for business. Okay. 2 weeks later, he bought designer shoes for networking. Another week later, expensive sunglasses for my image. Chioma didn't argue. She simply watched. Then came the biggest problem. Chinedu wanted Chioma to stop working after marriage. He didn't say it directly at first. Once we get married, you won't need to stress yourself with that job. Chioma laughed. I like my job. You can find something else. Why? I just think my wife shouldn't be working under somebody. Chioma looked at him. But you said you wanted a partner. You can be my partner at home. She laughed. Chinedu, partnership is not the same as sitting at home. Why are you making everything difficult? I'm not. Then why can't you just listen? Because it's my life too. That argument lasted 2 hours, and at the end, Chinedu walked away angry. Chioma stayed awake. She began to realize something. Chinedu wanted a woman who was independent enough to help him when he needed help, but dependent enough to never question him. He wanted her strength when it benefited him, but he feared that same strength when it challenged him. That was the beginning of the end, but neither of them knew it yet. A few weeks later, Chioma discovered something. She was reviewing some documents related to Chinedu's business because he had asked her to help organize his records. She noticed a payment. Her name appeared on an old transaction. She looked closer. It was the money she had contributed when his business was struggling. But instead of listing it as a loan or investment, Chinedu had categorized it as personal support. Why is my money recorded like this? He looked at the document. Which money? The money I gave you. He shrugged. Chioma, we are getting married. Is there really a need to separate everything? She stared at him. Yes. Why? Because money should be accounted for. He laughed. You don't trust me. This isn't about trust. It is always about trust with you. Chioma became quiet. Then she said, Okay. That okay was different. Chinedu didn't notice. She stopped arguing. She stopped trying to convince him. She started keeping records. She opened a separate savings account. She began building her own emergency fund. She didn't tell him. Not because she wanted to deceive him, because she had finally understood something. Love does not cancel wisdom. One morning, Chinedu woke up and said, I need your car today. Why? Meeting. I need it too. You can take a taxi. You're driving your own car. It's being serviced. No, it's not. What? I saw it outside yesterday. He stared at her. Chioma, don't start. I'm not starting anything. Give me the keys. No. He laughed. You've changed. Chioma looked directly into his eyes. Maybe. That was the first time Chinedu became uncomfortable. Because he could feel something slipping away. But he couldn't identify it. The old Chioma would have given him the keys. And sometimes, the most powerful word a woman can learn is no. Not because she wants to punish anybody, but because she finally understands that boundaries are not disrespect. They are protection. The wedding was still scheduled, the families were still excited, the invitations were already being discussed. Then one evening, Chinedu made a terrible mistake. He invited some friends to their apartment without telling Chioma. She had just returned from work. She entered the living room and saw 4 men drinking. One of them looked at her and laughed. Ah, madam has arrived. Chioma smiled politely. Good evening. One of the men said, Chinedu, your wife-to-be is very serious. Chinedu laughed. She's always been like that. Another man said, Bro, when you marry her, you need to put her in check. Everyone laughed. Chioma froze. She looked at Chinedu. He didn't defend her. Instead, he smiled. And that smile broke something inside her. She walked into the bedroom. She packed a small bag. When Chinedu came inside later, he found her sitting on the bed. What's wrong? I'm going to my friend's house. For what? I need space. He laughed. Because of what happened outside? Yes. Chioma, you are embarrassing me. She looked at him. I am embarrassing you? Yes. She stood. You allowed your friends to insult me in my own home. They were joking. I didn't find it funny. Then, she said something that stayed with him. One day, Chinedu, you will make me so tired that I won't even have the strength to explain why I'm leaving. He laughed. You won't leave. Chioma looked at him. Don't be so sure. That night, Chinedu thought she would come back the next morning. She didn't. The next day, she didn't answer his calls. The following day, she finally replied. I'm okay. I just need time. Chinedu became angry. He called her repeatedly. She didn't answer. He sent messages. She didn't respond. He called Amaka. What is wrong with your friend? Amaka replied, You should ask yourself. What does that mean? You know exactly what it means. Chinedu scoffed. Women. Amaka paused. Not women, Chioma. He hung up. For 3 days, Chioma stayed away. During those 3 days, she did something she had not done in a long time. She thought about herself. Not the relationship. Not the wedding. Not Chinedu. Herself. Who was she? What did she want? What kind of marriage did she want? What kind of man did she want beside her? And most importantly, was Chinedu still that man? The answer came quietly. No. Because sometimes the hardest thing isn't leaving someone you don't love. It's leaving someone you still love, because you finally understand that loving them is costing you yourself. Chioma returned home after a week. Chinedu was waiting. He hugged her. She didn't hug him back. Are you okay? Yes. Are we okay? She looked at him. I don't know. He frowned. What does that mean? It means I need to think. Think about what? So you're threatening to leave me? No. Then what? I'm trying to decide whether I still want this marriage. Chinedu stared at her. For the first time he became afraid. But instead of changing, he became angry. You've been listening to your friends. No. Your mother? No. Who then? Chioma answered, myself. And that was the beginning of the end. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to True Life Diaries, and turn on your notification bell so you don't miss our next story. And tell me honestly in the comments, if you were Chioma, would you continue with the wedding or walk away? Because what happens next is where everything changes. Stay with me. The next morning, Chioma woke up before Chinedu. She sat quietly at the edge of the bed. She looked around the room. They had chosen most of the furniture together. They had planned the color of the curtains. They had argued about the television. They had laughed here. They had cried here. They had made plans here. And now the room felt unfamiliar. She took out a notebook. On the first page she wrote, "What do I want?" Then she started writing. Respect, peace, partnership, financial responsibility, emotional safety. A husband who would be proud of her. A husband who would not compete with her. A husband who would not punish her for being independent. She stared at the list. Then she asked herself, does Chinedu give me these things? The answer was painful. No. She didn't immediately leave. That is important. Because walking away from a relationship is not always as easy as people make it sound. There are families, memories, plans, promises, money. There are people who have already bought asoebi. There are aunties who have already announced your wedding at church. There are friends who have already imagined themselves dancing at your reception. And then there is you, the person who has to live the marriage after everybody goes home. Chioma knew that. So, she decided to have one final conversation. She sat Chinedu down. Let's talk. He sighed. About what again? About us. Okay. I don't feel respected. Here we go. Please listen. I am listening. I don't want to marry someone who thinks my independence is a threat. I never said that. You don't have to say it. Then what do you want? I want a partner. I am your partner. Then act like one. Silence. Chioma continued. I don't want to stop working because you are uncomfortable with my independence. That's not what I said. It is what you meant. No, I want to provide for my wife. But providing for me shouldn't mean controlling me. Chinedu leaned back. You've changed. Yes. Who changed you? No one. Then why are you behaving differently? Because I grew. That sentence hit him. He looked at her for a long time. Then he said, if you don't trust me, maybe we shouldn't get married. Chioma nodded slowly. Maybe you're right. He expected her to panic. She didn't. He expected her to say, no, please. She didn't. Okay. Okay? Yes. That's it? That's it? Chinedu stared at her. She picked up her bag. Where are you going? Home. Chioma, she stopped. I thought you wanted to marry me. I did. Then why are you leaving? Because I want to marry a man who respects me. She walked out. This time she didn't look back. And Chinedu still didn't believe she was serious. That was his biggest mistake. For the next 2 weeks, he expected her to return. Her parents were shocked. His mother was confused. Friends started calling. What happened? Chioma didn't insult Chinedu. She didn't tell everybody his secrets. She simply said, we are no longer together. Some people tried to convince her. Marriage is about compromise. She agreed. Yes, you cannot expect perfection. I don't. Maybe give him another chance? She smiled. I gave him many. And that was the truth. Chioma had given him chances. More than she could count. But there comes a point when another chance stops being kindness and becomes self-abandonment. Meanwhile, Chinedu was angry. He told his friends that Chioma had become proud. She thinks because she has a good job, She is better than everybody. He told his mother, she has changed. His mother asked, what did you do? He became quiet. She knew. Mothers know. Chinedu, she said, if you love that girl, don't let pride destroy your relationship. He scoffed. She will come back. His mother shook her head. Don't be too sure. But Chinedu was sure. Until one day, he saw Chioma. She was at a restaurant with Amaka. She looked different. Not physically. Emotionally. She was laughing. A real laugh. The kind he hadn't heard in months. Chinedu stood across the street and watched her. For the first time, he understood that Chioma was not miserable without him. And that frightened him. He called her. She didn't answer. He sent a message. Can we talk? She replied hours later. About what? I miss you. She looked at the message for a long time. Then replied, I miss who we used to be. Chinedu stared at the screen. He called again. She didn't answer. He sent another message. I can change. Chioma replied, I hope you do. Then she stopped responding. That sentence hurt him more than anger would have, because she wasn't asking him to change for her anymore. She was moving on. Months passed. Chioma focused on herself. She got a promotion. Her company expanded into Abuja and Port Harcourt. She became one of the youngest managers in the company. She started speaking at business events. She enrolled in a professional course. She traveled. She spent more time with her family. She started exercising. She read. She laughed. She became herself again. Meanwhile, Chinedu's business began struggling. He had expanded too quickly. He spent money trying to impress people. He bought things he couldn't comfortably afford. He hired too many staff. He took loans. Customers stopped paying on time. Bills piled up. One evening, his accountant told him, we need to reduce expenses. Chinedu frowned. How bad is it? Bad. He looked at the figures. For the first time, he realized how much he had wasted. And then he remembered Chioma. She had warned him, don't spend money just to impress people. He had laughed. Now he wished he had listened. He called her. No answer. He tried again. Nothing. He went to her office. The receptionist told him she was in a meeting. He waited. For almost 2 hours. When Chioma finally came out, she saw him. Chinedu, can we talk? I'm busy. Please. She looked at him. Okay, 5 minutes. They went to a quiet corner. He looked different. Not broke, but tired. I made mistakes. Chioma nodded. I know. I treated you badly. Yes, I'm sorry. She looked at him. I appreciate the apology. He swallowed. Can we try again? Chioma was silent. Then she asked, why? He looked confused. Because I love you. Do you? Yes. Or because you now realize what you lost? He didn't answer. She continued. When I was with you, you didn't value me. I know. When I supported you, you called me emotional. I know. When I asked for respect, you called me difficult. I know. When I finally walked away, you thought I would come back. He lowered his head. I was wrong. Yes. He looked up. Give me one more chance. Chioma smiled sadly. I gave you enough chances. Then she walked away. Chinedu stood there. And for the first time, he understood the meaning of finality. Chioma wasn't trying to make him jealous. She wasn't trying to punish him. She wasn't playing hard to get. She was simply done. Months later, Chioma met someone new. His name was Alan. Alan wasn't flashy. He didn't drive an expensive car. He didn't make big promises. He didn't tell everyone how successful he was. He simply treated Chioma well. He listened. He respected her work. He celebrated her achievements. When she disagreed with him, he didn't call her difficult. He asked, why do you see it differently? When she said no, he respected it. When she succeeded, he didn't feel threatened. When she earned more money than him on a particular month, he joked, Madam CEO, remember us when you're rich. Chioma laughed. It was easy. There was no competition, no emotional gymnastics, no walking on eggshells, no wondering whether she was asking for too much. And slowly, she realized something. Love was not supposed to feel like an exam she kept failing. Love was supposed to feel like home. Meanwhile, Chinedu heard about Alan. At first, he didn't believe it. Then, a friend showed him a picture. Chioma was smiling. Alan was beside her. Chinedu stared at the picture. He felt a pain he couldn't explain. He had lost her. Not because another man stole her. Because he had failed to value her while she was his. He started blaming Alan, but deep down he knew. Alan hadn't taken Chioma. Chinedu had pushed her away. One evening, Chinedu went to his mother's house. She looked at him. You look tired. I'm fine. She smiled. You're not. She is with someone else. His mother knew who he meant. Chioma? He nodded. Do you regret it? He was silent. Then tears filled his eyes. Yes. His mother sighed. Then learn from it. I want her back. You cannot always get back what you lose. He looked at her. But I love her. Maybe. Maybe? Love without respect is not enough. Chinedu looked down. His mother continued. That girl loved you. She supported you. She believed in you. But you kept treating her like she needed you more than you needed her. He wiped his face. I thought she would never leave. His mother nodded. That was your mistake. And there it was, the sentence that summarized everything. He thought she would never leave. He confused patience with weakness. He confused kindness with desperation. He confused love with unlimited tolerance. He thought, because Chioma stayed after the first insult, she would stay after the 10th. Because she forgave once, she would forgive forever. Because she supported him financially, she would always support him. Because she loved him, she would tolerate anything. He was wrong. A woman can love you deeply and still walk away. A woman can pray for you and still stop being available to you. A woman can want your success and still refuse to destroy herself trying to help you succeed. And that was what Chinedu learned the hard way. Before we continue, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to True Life Diaries, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it. And if you were in Chioma's shoes, would you have forgiven Chinedu after everything he did? Let me know in the comments. Because the final parts are where Chinedu gets one last opportunity to understand exactly what he lost. 2 years passed. Chioma was no longer the woman Chinedu remembered. She had grown, professionally, emotionally, financially, and personally. She eventually married Alan. The wedding was beautiful, not because it was extravagant, because she was happy. Her mother cried during the ceremony. Her father prayed for her. Amaka danced like someone had paid her, and one auntie nearly fell while trying to catch the bouquet. Everybody laughed. It was a joyful day. He didn't attend. He couldn't. He stayed home. For hours he sat quietly. He remembered his own wedding plans with Chioma, the venue they had visited, the colors they had chosen, the conversations they had. And suddenly, all those memories became painful. But somewhere inside him, he finally understood. He didn't lose Chioma when she married Alan. He lost her long before that. He lost her when he stopped respecting her. He lost her when he began taking her support for granted. He lost her when he believed she couldn't live without him. He lost her when he made her feel small. He lost her when he treated her love as something guaranteed. Alan simply met the woman Chinedu had already failed to appreciate. Years later, Chinedu rebuilt his business. He became more responsible. He learned. He became calmer. He stopped trying to impress people. He started respecting employees. He started listening. He became the kind of man he should have been when he was with Chioma. But there was one problem. Chioma was no longer available to experience the improved version of him. And sometimes, growth comes too late for the relationship that needed it most. One afternoon, Chinedu ran into Chioma at a business conference. She was standing with several executives. Confident, elegant, happy. When she saw him, she smiled. Chinedu, Chioma. They greeted each other. There was no bitterness, no anger. Just history. You look happy. I am. I'm glad, she smiled. How are you? I'm good. They spoke for a few minutes. Then he said, I owe you an apology. Chioma looked at him. For what? For everything. She nodded. I was immature. Yes. I didn't understand your worth. She smiled. Neither did I. He looked surprised. What do you mean? I didn't understand my worth either. He was silent. I loved you so much that I kept reducing myself to fit the relationship. Chinedu swallowed. But you eventually stopped. Yes. How? She smiled. I got tired. He laughed sadly. That's it? Sometimes that's all it takes. She looked at him. I realized I didn't need to convince anyone to value me. Chinedu nodded. You were always valuable. Chioma smiled. I know that now. Then, he asked, are you happy? She looked toward the other side of the room, where Alan was talking to someone. She smiled. Very. Chinedu followed her gaze. He nodded. Good. Then they said goodbye. And that was it. No dramatic kiss. No running into each other's arms. No secret affair. No second chance. Just two people who had once loved each other, standing in the same room as strangers who knew too much about each other. Chinedu walked away. For the first time, he didn't try to get her back. He simply accepted the consequences. Years later, Chinedu became a different man. He was successful again, but this time, he wasn't obsessed with appearances. He understood that money could buy comfort. It could buy cars. It could buy houses. It could buy expensive dinners. But it could not buy back time. It could not buy back trust. And it certainly couldn't buy back a woman who had already learned to live without you. He eventually met someone else, a woman who respected him. He didn't try to control her. He didn't compete with her. He didn't take her for granted. He had learned. Painfully, expensively. But he had learned. And perhaps that was one good thing to come out of his relationship with Chioma. Meanwhile, Chioma continued building her life. She became a successful businesswoman. She started a foundation that helped young women learn financial independence. Whenever she spoke to young women, she often said something simple. Never confuse being loved with being valued. Because someone can say they love you every day and still treat you badly. Someone can call you beautiful and still make you feel worthless. Someone can buy you expensive gifts and still disrespect you. Someone can promise you marriage and still refuse to give you peace. Love is not just words. Love is behavior. Love is respect. Love is consistency. Love is accountability. And most importantly, love should never require you to abandon yourself. Chioma learned that. Chinedu learned it too. Just later. Much later. And perhaps that is the biggest lesson in this entire story. Sometimes people don't realize your worth while you're with them. They realize it when you're gone. When your calls stop. When your messages stop. When you stop explaining yourself. When you stop asking for the bare minimum. When you stop fighting for their attention. When you stop trying to prove that you deserve respect. That is when they finally notice the silence. And by then, the silence is permanent. Chinedu once believed Chioma would never leave. He thought her love meant she would always stay. But he misunderstood her. Chioma wasn't staying because she was weak. She was staying because she loved him. There is a difference. And when she finally left, she didn't leave because she stopped having feelings. She left because she started having feelings for herself. She realized she deserved better. She realized she deserved peace. She realized she deserved someone who wouldn't make her beg for basic respect. She realized that being someone's girlfriend, fiancé, or wife should never mean becoming their emotional punching bag. And she realized that walking away wasn't failure. Sometimes walking away is the bravest thing a person can do. But the bigger tragedy was this. He had every opportunity to become the man who deserved her. He simply chose pride instead. He chose ego. He chose control. He chose to believe she needed him more than he needed her. And by the time he realized the truth, she had already moved on. So if you're listening to this story, and you're in a relationship where you constantly have to beg someone to respect you, ask yourself one question. How long are you willing to lose yourself just to keep someone else? Because love should not make you smaller. The right person will not be threatened by your growth. They will celebrate it. They will not compete with your success. They will be proud of it. They will not punish you for having boundaries. They will respect them, and they will not make you feel like you're difficult simply because you know what you deserve. Chioma's story reminds us that knowing your worth doesn't mean thinking you're better than everybody else. It means understanding that you deserve dignity, you deserve respect, you deserve honesty, you deserve peace. And sometimes, knowing your worth means having the courage to say, I love you, but I cannot continue like this. Sometimes it means packing your bags. Sometimes it means ending the engagement. Sometimes it means canceling the wedding. Sometimes it means walking away from someone you've spent years loving. And sometimes it means walking away while you still love them. Because staying with someone who constantly destroys your peace just because you love them is not always loyalty. Sometimes it's self-abandonment. Chioma chose herself, and eventually she found the kind of love she had always wanted. Not perfect love, real love. A love where two people could disagree without destroying each other. A love where independence wasn't considered disrespect. A love where success wasn't a competition. A love where she didn't have to beg to be appreciated. And Chinedu, he became the lesson. The lesson that you should never take a good woman for granted simply because she has been patient with you. Because patience has a deadline. Kindness has boundaries. And even the most loving person can eventually decide, enough is enough. So, Chinedu lost the woman who knew her worth. But perhaps the woman he lost was the woman who taught him the greatest lesson of his life. Never take someone for granted simply because they love you. Because one day, they may stop asking you to appreciate them. They may simply leave. And when they do, you may finally realize that the person you thought you could never lose was the person you should have valued the most. And that brings us to the end of today's story, here on True Life Diaries. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Chioma made the right decision by leaving Chinedu? Or should she have given him one more chance? And be honest, have you ever seen someone realize the value of a person only after losing them? Tell me your thoughts in the comments, because I genuinely want to know what you would have done if you were in Chioma's shoes. If this story touched you, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to True Life Diaries, turn on the notification bell, and share this story with someone who might need to hear it. Remember, never beg someone to see your worth. The right people won't need convincing. Until next time, stay safe, stay wise, protect your peace, and remember, you can love someone deeply and still know when it's time to choose yourself. I'll see you in the next story. This is True Life Diaries, where every story has a lesson, and every life has a diary.